guys are just so already, please turn your phones off and put them on silent.
לכל זמן ועת לכל חפץ תחת השמיים. לכל זמן ועת לכל חפץ תחת השמיים. עת ללדת ועת למות, עת לטעת ועת לעקור נטוע, עת להרוג ועת לרפוא, עת לפרוץ ועת לבנות. לכל זמן ועת לכל חפץ תחת השמיים. לכל זמן ועת לכל חפץ תחת השמיים.
בכל זמן ובכל עת חפץ תחת השמיים. We turn to these words of the Bible's preacher, Ecclesiastes, as we begin our service. In so doing, we link our beloved Harry Meltz to the 3,000-year-old tradition of the Jewish people in the eternity of God. Ecclesiastes said that there is a season set for everything, time for every experience under heaven, a time for birthing and a time for dying, a time for dancing and a time for wailing, a time for seeking and for losing, a time for speaking and a time for silence. We find ourselves in this time, this mixture of moods. We find ourselves silent. What can you say in the face of death? And yet it is in sharing words, sacred memories, that we find great comfort. And so I'd like to call upon Harry's family to ask Len and Amy, followed by Robin, who will read a note from Todd to share with us their cherished memories.
Every time we would go down to Florida, first words out of Uncle High was, "Len, you gained a lot of weight." Well, he'd be laughing today as I tried to put my black suit on and it wouldn't fit. So that was Uncle High, and we were always prepared for that, his opening remarks. But he did it not because he wanted to insult. He actually had so much respect for me. Why? I can't tell you. But I not only helped him with some personal stuff, but with life decisions as to where he was going to live and all kinds of things like that. He really depended on me. And we had a wonderful relationship in that way. was a relationship of love and respect on both sides. I was trying to think of a few different words that would describe his life. And I came up with 3 that kind of puts it together, and I'll talk about those. One was fun. One was feisty, more of a determination, and frugal. And there's all kinds of stories to talk about with Uncle High in those areas. With fun, he loved to have fun. He loved to do lawn bowling. And in Florida, there's this big lawn bowling facility. I think it's called the Sunshine Club or something like that. And he took Bonnie and I one day to teach us how to do lawn bowling. He turned out to be the president of the league later on. And he had loads of friends in doing this. And he was so proud, and it was a great activity. He also loved to play bridge. And he had a lot of people that he knew. So he surrounded himself by a lot of friends, and they loved him. They loved him on the floor of the facility. And when we were waiting for things to happen, and the nurses were crying, and the nurses, they said, he's our person. He's the person that was the life of the party here. And he'd always, whenever we came to the Palms, he was always in the middle. If there was something going on, he was there. And it was so sad when we were in his room, and I came out of his room, and I looked upon all the people there, like, Uncle High is gone. He's not here. It was so sad. It was so sad because you were used to coming to the floor and looking, where is he? He's right there, he's right there waiting for you to greet you. And he wasn't there at the time. The nurses had a lot of stories about him, and some of them pretty funny. So one day, they were telling us when we were just there, that he would always ask, well, what's the entertainment tonight? What's the entertainment? And he'd ask everybody, what's the entertainment? Because he looked forward to this entertainment all the time. Well, anyway, so he comes to he finds another resident there. It happens to be a little lady who's very hard of hearing, and she talks in a very high, squeaky voice, and he's telling her, what's the entertainment? What's the entertainment? Well, neither one can hear very well. So she only hears entertainment. Well, her value system is such that not the same. So she looks at him and, entertainment? Well, I wasn't thinking about it, but if you're willing, I'm willing too. So that was her way of saying about entertainment. I used the word feisty, but it was more of in terms of he did it his way. He always did things his way. And he gave respect, and he in turn wanted respect from everyone. I remember one day he was in the hospital, and he called me up. And first we had to track him down because the hospital didn't tell us where they sent him. I called the hospital, and they said, where is he? Wherever we had an opening, we sent him. No, that's not good enough, folks. We need to know where Uncle High is. So he went to this nursing home, and I finally got him on the phone, and he says, Len, you got to get me out of here. You got to get me out of here. I said, what's going on? Well, they're talking down to me. They're talking down to me. And then I heard in the background, some female staff saying, Harry, all the girls like you here. Why do you want to leave? That's exactly what he was alluding to. He was not to be talked down by anybody. Well, what happened there was that I called the Jewish home in Menorah Manor and explained the situation going on, and they were really nice, and they went over there that day, and the next day they admitted him to the Jewish home. Later on down the road, we had some issues with them, and we needed to move him again. And Charlie knew this Cypress Palms down there from some contacts, and that turned out to be a wonderful, wonderful place. It was assisted living. It's a huge complex. It's like a mile square. There's like 22 buildings. And actually it was owned by a Jewish person from Minneapolis who now passed away. So there was that. He was bright, and he was a CPA for the government, for the IRS, and he could look at something and like that, he'll tell you if it's right, if it's wrong, whatever. One day, Bon and I were there, and we were at his apartment, and he was having some work done, some hurricane shutters. So he said, well, they're going to be here, and that's fine, that's all fine. Well, they put up these hurricane shutters, or blinds they are, really, hurricane blinds in his condo. And then they gave him the bill, and he looks at it. Nope. Nope. Oh, my God, what's going to happen now, But it wasn't that he was arguing with them. He just, he says, your math is wrong. They looked at him like, he was about, I don't know, 90s. He knew right away, CPA, the math was wrong, and they apologized to him and got it all right. But he treated them with respect, but he also knew, hey, don't put anything over on me. In this apartment, he had a chair that was threadbare. He would sit on it all the time, and we would tell him, Uncle, hi, come on, you don't need this chair anymore. You need to have a new chair. Well, he wasn't going to be spend too much money, even though he could. So we finally convinced him to go to a furniture store. He was 99 years old, I recall. So we go to this furniture store, and literally he tried out every single chair they had. All these chairs, some of them are power chairs, and some are, manual. They're the lazy boy kinds of chairs. And I'm sure there's no less than 20 chairs that we tried out. And it was getting kind of, the help was getting a little antsy, with us. And I said, look, he's 99. Leave him alone. He'll find the right chair. So we finally did. And, of course, he got it home, and he didn't like it. He didn't like it. It was too narrow, as I recall. It was too narrow. And he always had his ways of kind of getting back to you, back and forth. It was kind of funny. But some just thoughts that come to my mind. He would take us out to eat to the 4th Street Fish House. Now, the 4th Street Fish House is kind of a dive. It's got these vinyl tablecloths, and fish comes in a basket, and French fries comes in a basket, and for us, of course, we eat fish, so it was fine. But always the 4th. But before we went there, he said, or somehow we pointed out there was a Cheesecake Factory restaurant right near there. Maybe we should go to the Cheesecake Factory once. So we go to the 4th Street Fish House, and we have this dinner, and then he turns to me and says, I paid tonight. Tomorrow we go to Cheesecake Factory, and you pay. That was Uncle High, you just took it the way it was. In November, Robin and Eliora came down with us, and Eliora was here, 10 years old, she played the flute for him. And he clapped, and he clapped, and he was so happy to meet somebody from the young generation, because he knows some of the generation, but the young kids. This is the first time he ever met Robin's kids. And he was clapping and just having a ball. And being, you could see the pride on his face for family. Well, today, we clap for Harry. As a country, for what he did for his country in serving in the armed forces. We clap for Harry for his commitment to Israel and leaving assets for the state of Israel and being very, very generous. We clap for Harry by the fact that he had a home in Minneapolis on Pillsbury Avenue and he brought for about 6 or 8 homeless men that he brought into that facility. And he was ahead of his times. He was ahead of his times. There was a need, and there is a bigger need even now, for the homeless to have a place to be. Room and board, group home. And we clap for him because he reached out to the community. And we clap for him for his pride of his family. His example, this is an example of being a real mensch. He was a mensch to all of us. And nothing could be greater. May you rest in peace. And may all our memories be for a blessing. Rest in peace, Uncle Hi.
The last time I saw Uncle Hi was this past September. My mom and Auntie Bonnie received a call that he was in the hospital, and my mom and I went down so he wouldn't be alone. We didn't know what to expect, as his health had been deteriorating for a few years, and we didn't know if he would survive this latest incident. Much to our surprise, when we got to the hospital, he saw us and his face lit up. And he wanted to sit up and asked if we could bring him a newspaper so he could know what was happening in the world and in the stock market. Now, I don't think he recognized us individually by name, but he knew we were family, and he was very happy that we were there. As Uncle Len touched on, my memories of Uncle Hi all revolve around family, usually celebrations. I remember him at the family barbecues, birthday parties, bar mitzvahs, holiday meals, graduations. One of my favorite memories of him was at my wedding. His brothers who were alive then, and my grandpa Archie, and there were some cousins that were in town, all kind of gathered, and I could see them as like teenagers sitting around chatting and talking about the good old days, and they just all were so happy and smiling and happy to reconnect. And he was walking around in the hotel that night with sunglasses on. I remember that vividly. I don't know why, but he was having so much fun. And he loved talking about current events in the stock market. What I always appreciated was that he never talked down to us when we were kids, as some adults do. He made us feel like we had something important to say, and he paid attention. Later, after he moved away from the snow and cold in Minnesota, we visited him in Florida. He would love showing us around St. Petersburg and telling us about the buildings and about his lawn bowling, and took us hunting for the sand dollars. Later, I would go there. We would visit my in-laws in Florida, and he got to meet my kids, and we would pick him up and just kind of do the same thing, drive around a little bit. We'd go out to dinner, and it was always so much fun. the last time we visited him, it was so outstanding because he was, I don't know, 95 years old, and we picked him up. He got in the car with his big long ponytail, and we just had so much fun. But he was so young at heart, and always fun for us to be around. Over the last few years, he stopped driving. He had to move into assisted living facility, which after living on his own terms for 100 plus years was probably very difficult. But he endeared himself to the staff. He was always participating. I heard about a Zumba class that chair Zumba, or saw pictures of him baking cookies with the residents. He was always in the middle of everything, and he loved being a part of whatever was going on. It's hard to comprehend 104 years, but if anyone could teach us how to do it and do it well, it was Uncle Hi. Uncle Hi, we're going to miss you a lot, and I love you.
Hi, I'm Robin, and I'm going to read a eulogy that my brother Todd wrote. Hopefully he's watching now. I miss you. When we first learned of Uncle Hi's passing, I was trying my best to calm a feverish 3-year-old, and my first thought was, wow, Uncle Hi was once 3 years old. Once upon a time, his parents, Eva and Benjamin, also took time off from work when little Harry got sick, and they packed countless lunches and went to countless Little League games or whatever activities he was into as a child. Untold number of hours were spent by teachers preparing lessons to teach him. Untold extra hours were clocked to put food on the table for him and his brothers and sister. So much effort went into raising young Harry, to raise him and imbue him with lessons that made his life meaningful. That was a long time ago. Harry was born at the outbreak of World War I. By the time Israel became a state, Harry was already 34 years old. We know little about his childhood. Anyone who was around at that time is long gone. His adult life was a bit of a mystery to many of us as well. It was often hard to understand why he made certain choices, such as sending us surprise monetary gifts, or not. It was clear that Harry wanted part of his savings to go to tzedakah, which he saw as a vital responsibility we have as Jews to one another. He was particularly affected by the image of the Haganah ship, the SS St. Louis, who in 1939 was carrying 937 Jewish refugees, was not allowed to land in America, Canada, and most chillingly was blocked by the British when it tried to land in Israel. He saw Israel as a haven for the Jews and was proud that we have a country to defend ourselves, where scenes like the SS St. Louis could not repeat themselves. It was for this reason, amongst others, that he directed part of his estate to go to tzedakah in Israel. This week's Torah portion, Kudei, is sometimes referred to as the accountant's parsha, which is fitting to cite during the eulogy of a CPA. The parsha is referred to as such because it details the contributions that the Israelites made to build the sanctuary. When the Israelites were asked to give, they gave in such great amount that Moses had to tell them to stop. These were the same Israelites that in other regards were not considered so generous. They were a group which complained a lot, who quarreled, but when it came to tzedakah, they gave without measure. In a commentary on the parsha, Rabbi Jonathan Sachs writes, "There is a fascinating feature of the geography of the land of Israel. It contains 2 seas, the Sea of Galilee and the Dead Sea. The Sea of Galilee is full of life. The Dead Sea, as its name implies, is not. Yet they are fed by the same river, the Jordan. The difference is that the Sea of Galilee receives water and gives water. The Dead Sea receives but does not give. To receive but to not give is, in Jewish geography as well as Jewish psychology, simply not life." A lot of effort went into making Uncle Hi's life, details that we will never know. I'm not sure that knowing all those details is as important as the greater life lessons that we can take away from him, such as the importance of hard work, and the importance of tzedakah. Doing so will carry on the traditions of Eva and Benjamin, of Uncle Hai and his siblings, of their children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, nieces, and nephews, because that's what it means to build a Jewish life. May we learn from Uncle Hai the value of hard work, and may we learn the value of tzedakah. Like the Israelites in this week's Parsha, may we contribute to the land of Israel, the state of Israel, and the people of Israel. And in doing so, may we make the memory of Uncle Hai a blessing.
Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu, our God and God of our ancestors, 1,000 years in your sight are a passing day, an hour of night. Dor holech v'dor ba, generations come and go while you, God, endure forever. We are always be'adecha, in your hands, in death as in life. Help us to mourn help us who mourn Harry's loss, look beyond this moment and realize that death cannot destroy everlasting bonds of love. Sustain us with knowledge afforded by emunah, by faith, that you will not allow us to be forgotten, for you have taught us Orach Chaim, the way of life, and through you we gain eternity. Tonight we enter Rosh Chodesh Adar Sheni, the new month of Adar. In announcing the new month, we prayed for Chaim Arukim, long life. Well, clearly at 104, Harry Meltz's prayer was answered. But his age was not all that mattered. Yes, he lived a long life. More importantly, he lived a good life. This is, as the prayer intones, Shetichadesh Leinu et hachodesh hazeh litova v'livracha. May this month be renewed for goodness and for blessing. And indeed for Chai, it was. This morning we gather in sorrow as we remember Harry Meltz and lay him to his eternal rest. We also gather in celebration of a person who counted his days and made his days count. We send condolences to his family, to Elaine and Bob and Bonnie and Len, his numerous nieces and nephews and cousins. Harry didn't have children of his own, but he had what amounted to adopted children in his extended family. He was highly regarded by them, and they in turn made a special effort to spend time with him. Among them, 3 generations, including the children of Amy and Charlie and Todd and Robin, enjoyed their regular visits with Chai. They found him fun and nice. They especially appreciated that he did not, as Amy said, that he didn't speak down to them. Harry is preceded in death by his parents, by Eva and Benjamin, his sister Fanny and brothers Archie, Ben, Morris, and Joe. His siblings used to look up to him because he was the college graduate, and as an accountant they relied on him for help with their taxes. After graduating summa cum laude from the University of Baltimore, Harry worked in Washington, D.C. in the Department of the Treasury. He was a CPA working in the tax division. When he retired in 1974, he was awarded with the Albert Gallatin Award. Harry served his country in another way as a corporal in World War II in Europe. These years made a lasting impression on him. He was proud of his service and spoke openly about Normandy and about hearing the speech when the peace treaty was finally signed. In 1984, Harry moved to St. Petersburg, where he enjoyed the natural beauty, the weather, and activities. As you heard, he became president of the Lawn Bowling Association. He enjoyed taking walks outdoors, doing Zumba, hunting for sand dollars, and taking his family out to his favorite seafood restaurant. Hosting all those who came to town was his opportunity to return the favor of all the times that they hosted him over the years. Harry used to go to his family for holidays. Once he came over for Rosh Hashanah. He arrived, much to the bewilderment of his family. They asked, "Uncle Hai, what are you doing here?" He said, "I came for Rosh Hashanah." "But that's tomorrow night," they said. "Well, since I'm already here," he responded, "I'll go ahead and stay anyways." In Florida, Chai loved to host those who came to visit. First thing he'd ask is, "Are you staying for dinner?" It was his way of making you feel at home. And of course, before you went home, he'd offer ice cream in a plastic bowl with a silver spoon. Once for his 100th birthday, he threw a party for the other residents of the building. When the party was over, he quietly told his family, "Come upstairs for some ice cream." He didn't want to serve it to everyone, but to reserve it for special guests. Yes, Chai, as you heard Lynn say, he did things his way. That was true when it came to giving gifts. He didn't give gifts for weddings or for birthdays, but rather really just when the mood struck him. Once out of the blue, Bonnie remembers getting a check to support her college studies. In addition to his generosity with family, Harry loved Israel, as you heard from Todd. He was not a shul goer per se, but as president of his AZA chapter in Duluth, being Jewish was important to him. In a way, you might say that he saw his support of Israel as a kind of repayment for the support he received from his parents growing up. And having family in Israel made that bond even more personal. Chai remained sharp over the years. He liked to keep up on the financial news, to play bridge, and to read. This made him well liked at Cypress Palms. In fact, the caregivers, as you heard, came in on their days off to say goodbye to him. Chai did things his way. That was true in death as in life. There were many times that his family thought and expected he might die. They raced down to Florida only to have their uncle recover. After surgeries on his hip and on his bowels, he seemed totally out of it, only to bounce back. Chai wanted to live, and so even this last time, he held on. He wasn't ready. As his caregivers said, he hadn't decided to let go yet. But finally it was time, and with the Shema on his lips, he entered eternity. In the prayer for the new month, the word Chaim is repeated over and over again, as we pray for a long life, a good life, a life of blessing, and finally, Chaim Shel Shalom, a life of peace. Today we lay Chaim to his eternal rest. When we preserve his memory, he will remain like his name, Chai, ever alive. Yeh Zichrono Baruch. May his memory be for a blessing. V'nomar. Amen. Please rise for El Moed Rachamim, the memorial prayer.
El Moed Rachamim, Shochen Bamramim. Hamtzei, Hamtzei, Menucha Nechona, Tachat Kanefei Hashchina. B'malot Kedoshim Utolim, Kizor Lakim Abazirim. Et Nishmat Chaim ben Beryl Rivka Shalach Liolamo Began Eden Tehei Menuchato Anabal Harachamim As Tireu Beseter Kinafecha Liolamim Utror bitror chaim et nishmato Adonai hu nachalato ve'yanuach b'shalom al mishkavo v'nomar
Melei Rachamim, exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure to the soul of Harry Meltz, who has gone to his eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that a loved one find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May his soul be bound up in the bond of life. May he rest in peace. Let us say, Amen. Friends and family are encouraged to perform the mitzvah of Nichum Avelim, of offering comfort to the mourners, in part by attending tonight's Shiva Minyan here at Bethel at 7 o'clock. At this time, the interment will continue at the Fort Snelling National Cemetery.